A2IM, the collective voice of independent music.
Hey everyone, welcome to HIM Artists, Delta Region. Really happy to be here with you today. And this is a great panel with a great group of people, honestly, so from different areas of the industry to do an Ask Me Anything. That means if you want to ask a question, please do so in the little chat box to the side or below, and I will get the question to the right people. So if everyone wants to introduce themselves and put on their camera, maybe starting with Oona. Yep. Great.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Hey everyone, I'm Oona Mitchell-Bean. I co-own Royal Studios with my brother, who I have to say Grammy-nominated, Grammy-winning Boo Mitchell. I do a lot of management duties as well as event promotion, production, tour management. I do all the stuff that people don't want to do in the music industry, is like finding your BMI, dealing with pros, dealing with sound exchange and all that. And I'm here for you to ask me anything.
Great, thanks. Welcome, Oona. Jasen, would you like to go next?
Yes, thank you. Thanks to A2IM for having me. My name is Jasen Samford. I'm the Director of Artist Relations at DistroKid. For anyone maybe not familiar, DistroKid is a big digital distribution service for artists who want to get their music into stores like iTunes, Spotify, TikTok, everything that we talked about so far, all the various DSPs.
Great, thanks. Welcome, Jasen. And how about we have Andy next?
Hey everyone, I'm Andy. I'm the label support lead at Bandcamp. For those of you who aren't familiar, Bandcamp is a marketplace that's sort of a direct artist to fan platform. An easy way to think about it is Etsy for musicians. And kind of what we've been focusing on this year is building the best tools to make those connections between artists and fans as good and easy as possible.
Great. Welcome, Andy. Thanks for being here with us. And Noah, you're next.
Hi, I'm Noah Becker. I'm a co-founder and president of AdRev. We're a digital rights administration company, manage UGC, user-generated content, on platforms like YouTube. And we manage about 15 million copyrights for about 5,000 different clients. And I'm also a lifelong writer and producer. And I've had a couple labels myself, so happy to address anything that I can. I'm really stoked to be here. Thanks to A2IM for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And Britnee.
Hello, my name is Britnee Forman. I am currently the Senior Data Analytics Manager at Tempo Music Investments. We provide liquidity to songwriters and artists who have a catalog that they might want to leverage so that they can possibly finance their next record, EP, etc. I am also on the global board for Women in Music worldwide. So I'm very happy. Thank you, A2M, for having me.
Thanks for being here. And my name is Lisa Hresko. I'm the Senior Director of Member Services and International Relations at A2IM. You can reach me at membership@a2im.org. That's our whole membership team. So let's get started. Now, some questions I think we want to begin with are just the really basics, the nuts and bolts. I'm just getting started. I'm an artist. And what is the very basic things I need to learn? And Oona, maybe you would like to answer that first.
Yeah, well, you need 3 to 4 things to start. You're going to need a split sheet so you know what percentages you're putting into all the other things I'm about to name. You need a pro. If you don't know what a pro is a performance rights organization, which it consists of 3 major ones that are in the U.S., which are BMI, ASCAP, and CSAC. Now, there are some other performance rights agencies all over the world, but those are the ones that are commonly used in the U.S. You need a copyright, and you can or cannot need a publisher. BMI is a publisher, but you can go with something like a Song Trust or something like that, to where they are all in one, inclusive with everything.
Great, thank you. And now, once you record, you have to get your music out to the world. So Jasen, do you want to give us a very large overview of distribution?
Yeah, sure. Once you've got your music recorded, got some cover art ready to go, signing up a DistroKid is super easy. There are a lot of various options for distribution. Our founder and CEO, he's biased obviously, but says if you didn't choose DistroKid, you messed up. And I tend to agree with that. I'm also biased, but having tried other services in the past as well, DistroKid is, cheaper and faster, and you keep 100% of your royalties. So you may want to do some digging. Somebody mentioned earlier in the chat about Ari's take. Ari's Hairstand's website has some great information about various distribution options and what different distributors offer. But with DistroKid, it's an annual subscription service. So for an annual price, you can get your albums into all those stores that I mentioned earlier: Apple Music, Tidal, Pandora, everything. And super easy, just pretty similar to like uploading to Instagram or YouTube. You just sort of go through the upload form and put in your artist name and your track titles and your artwork, upload your audio files, and then ship it off. There's some good stuff that's important to keep in mind, like giving yourself some time. A lot of times newer artists will upload and say, all right, I'm ready for my release. It's going to come out tomorrow. And then getting upset when that release didn't go live the next day, because DistroKid, it's going to take about within 24 hours for us to submit it to all the various streaming services, and then they take 1 to 5 days or so on their end. Also giving yourself a chance to promote and everything. It's really good to try to upload at least 2 to 4 weeks early, so that you can give yourself a chance to make sure everything is fully processed and do some promotion, start getting people to pre-save and stuff like that.
That's great. And so if you're a DistroKid user, where does your music go? What services are you?
So many places. Pretty much everywhere you'd expect to find music online. So Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Tidal, Instagram for like Instagram stories, TikTok, Pandora, Amazon. We recently partnered with Twitch, so they have a service called Twitch Soundtrack. JioSaavn, I'm probably missing some in the list, but everywhere you would expect to find music.
Great. Well, thank you. Sure. And maybe we'll quickly now move to Andy, now let's talk about Bandcamp and how that differs from a digital service provider, and working with Bandcamp to make sure your music is available and other merch options that you have available.
For sure. So unlike DistroKid, which is a distributor, Bandcamp is a standalone store. So it's more of a niche store. We like to think of it as a high-end record store where the artists are in charge of their own little section of the store. So when we started back in 2008, it was just downloads. So we just wanted a way to get downloads, high-quality downloads, FLAC, WAVE, all the different types out to fans who are willing to pay directly to the artist to get those downloads. We've since added merch, and now it's kind of a whole platform to sell your downloads and your merch directly to your fans. And so, it is kind of a standalone website for those artists. And what those artists need to focus on is, communicating with their fans directly. As I mentioned earlier, that's something we try to promote is, you start building a following on Bandcamp and you have direct interaction with everyone who's ever bought your music from Bandcamp. You'll either be able to email them or message them through the site. There's no Facebook algorithm to worry about. There's no, sponsored posts or anything. It's just a direct connection with those fans. And then you can, design your page in any way you want and just present yourself and interact with your fans kind of in any way that you choose through the lens of the standalone marketplace that focuses on high quality downloads and selling merch directly.
Great. Thanks, Andy. And I guess next, just quickly, we'll move to Britnee. And Britnee, do you want to talk about the importance of, now that your music is out in the world, what kind of information you have and what does your data look like, and how do you own and control and make sure that you're utilizing that data to the best of your abilities. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. So I know that in the last panel, it was mentioned next big sound, all of the different ways that you can check your data and be able to see how your new copyrights are out in the marketplace. As a next big sound alum, I'm more than happy to like evangelize. So you have things that you want to see how many plays that your songs are doing. You want to be able to see if that is growing your fan base, because as a creator, you guys are a business. You guys, all of your songs are your inventory. So you want to make sure that it's going to where it needs to be, that it is working properly. You can then see for marketing if your socials are growing because people are connecting with your music. And not to make this sound transactional, because you want authentic music to connect with your fans. But also you'll be able to measure that, and you'll be able to see if that is connecting and which markets that's connecting, because that informs where you're going to tour. When touring's a thing again, hopefully very soon. It informs what merch is doing well. So you have all of this data, your sales data, your streams, that will inform how much you can start to expect when it comes time to royalties. If you have an admin like Songtrust, if you have PROs, knowing essentially where your music is playing and how often it's playing can sort of give you a prediction to how money is going to look like in 3 to 6 months, depending on how long a turnaround is for payouts to happen. There's a whole lot of data, and I don't want to inundate people because I can get real nerdy and in the weeds about data, especially things like your ISRCs, which are things that are important to know where they are. As somebody who has shaken down YouTube for money for artists, having those things handy and being able to give those to the people who will then go and do the job for you. Having all that information handy is invaluable because it helps people help you. And I think at the end of the day, everybody who's in the music industry really wants to help creators make a living doing this. It's something that we're passionate about. And so making sure that the creators have data literacy to be able to advocate for themselves and be able to see what their market looks like, how their music is performing actually helps us, because then it's more of a collaborative process. It's not so much of us telling you or trying to educate you why these things, but you then have some sort of insight, and you can drive the car a little bit further because you'll know exactly what's going on.
Britnee, do you have any sources for data literacy as it pertains to artists particularly?
I really love, the Next Big Sound is great if you want to track like some of your socials. I have sound charts. There is Chartmetric. There is, if you want to ping me or in the chat, I can probably like look up anything that you're looking into. Media is if you really want to see white papers. The RIAA has information on the sale on U.S. sales. So there's a wealth of information depending on what you're specifically looking for.
Great, thank you. And speaking of that data and that information and then monetizing from YouTube, let's move to Noah. Noah, if you want to maybe start there, but AdRev does quite a bit and talk about what you do particularly for artists as far as monetizing.
Sure. So yeah, as I referenced earlier, we administer about 15 million copyrights of predominantly recordings and compositions owned by third-party rights owners. So Content ID is a system by which if you own a recording or are a songwriter who self-admins your publishing, you can participate with an aggregator, such as an AdRev or DistroKid, I believe also has a Content ID offering, as do all digital distributors. But we're a specialist in it. And essentially, when a user uploads their dog video, their bulldog skateboarding and contains your recording, and they haven't secured the appropriate license to use their recording in their video. We lever YouTube's Content ID system that triggers Google AdSense ads to run over those videos. We collect that AdSense revenue and pay it downstream to our client base on a revenue share basis. So it's a no out-of-pocket costs or fees type of service model. Generally, there's a fairly strong misconception about, well, I searched for my music on YouTube and I didn't find any results. There's probably not any money for me there. 10 to 1, the uses of your music on YouTube will not mention the music. So, for every time you can find, I don't know, pick your favorite song and you type that in and you see all the music video results or people doing reactions to it. There's usually another 1,000% of that out there with people just using that music as a needle drop inside their video, synchronizing the music with their video. So yeah, we help third-party rights owners make sure they capture all that income. We also do channel management, so help you make sure your YouTube artist channel is set up properly and monetizing. Just some quick stats for people to understand. To become a direct, monetizing partner of YouTube, you need 1,000 subscribers on the channel and 4,000 hours of trailing 12-month watch time. That equates to about 250,000 views of like a 3-minute or so video. So it's not to dispel the possibility that you could make lots of money and do really, really well on your own YouTube channel, but you do need to build it a bit and work towards that. But in the meantime, you can still lever Content ID for the recordings that you own to monetize third-party videos, again, unlicensed use of your works. And then outside of that, we do a lot of custom technology work and data reconciliation for trade organizations and things like that. But that's, for any independent artist, you can go to cid.adrev.net and start, uploading your recordings right away and participating in that income stream.
Great.
And there's plenty of other providers out there. It's not one size fits all, and there's lots of options out there, and always happy to point those out to folks as well.
No, while you mention some of the options for YouTube monetization, obviously there was a panel right before this on marketing, but is there any kind of stats or benchmarks you need to hit on YouTube to be able to monetize?
It's just those metrics of watch time and subscribers. So it's, again, 1,000 subscribers, 4,000 hours of watch time, which again breaks down to about 250,000 views of a 3-minute video. Those are metrics that were just recently imposed. I think it was February of 2019. There's been a lot of apocalypses on YouTube. There was Adpocalypse and there was Kidpocalypse and there's this apocalypse and that apocalypse. The most recent apocalypse was Kidpocalypse, where YouTube's ad restrictions and guidelines got a little bit more tightened up, I think for good reason. So that's where you have to hit those metrics to be enabled for monetization. So once you have 1,000 subscribers and that watch time requirement, you should get a signal when you log into your YouTube studio to your channel, and it should say, hey, join the YouTube Partner Program, or YPP. So that's monetizing the channel side. There's no threshold to monetizing the Content ID side. The only threshold is, did people use your music in their videos? And if the answer is yes, then you'll probably make a little money.
Excellent. So we have quite a few questions coming in, but I think I'm going to start with one that's a little more overarching. And maybe Oona, you want to begin with this one, but anyone, please feel free to jump in at any time. This question is regarding putting together a team. So when you're putting together, what do you do to develop a team of people? What does your team look like? Who do you need? And where do you go and find these folks?
Well, developing a team, it depends on where you are in your career. So a lot of people come out the gate thinking they need a manager. Some of them don't need a manager. They need friends that can act on their behalf until they actually are getting shows out the city, so, and getting paid for shows out of the city. I've had this question before, and to build a great team, you just have to have a core of people that are staying in their lane and doing their job. If this person is your social media, you need to be able to when you have a team, you have to be able to build things together. That's the main thing. And I've seen these people that want to bring their whole entourage and let them do everything. And like, they know nothing about a copyright. They know nothing about a BMI. So when you pick people, you need to pick people for that specific reason. If you have a person, maybe you're not in need of a manager right now, but you need someone to understand a copyright. You have a friend that understands a copyright. Let's get your friend here that can possibly become your manager when you're doing more things. It starts small, because a lot of the things that and there's people that you can talk to. Like, there's certain things that people think that you need a big team to accomplish, and you really don't. I mean, Google tells you pretty much anything you want to know, So if you want to know, how do I book a show for myself? You Google that, and it's going to say, you start by calling promoters, but if you're not comfortable, there's some artists that just want to be a creative. And that's when a team needs to come in place. That's when you need to have a body of people around you to take care of the business situation of the situation. If you are not willing to learn certain things for yourself, and you have to trust your team and listen to your team and work together.
So for your team, would you say a first step when you are to that point would be a manager? And then what are other people as you grow who you should be considering as it becomes, like you said, as an artist, if you want to create and you don't want to handle day-to-day logistics, which can become a lot and can be very time consuming. Managers, publicity and marketing teams, booking agents, right? Are there other important people to be looking out for?
Yes, you first need to start with your one manager. Then you need to come in with your business manager, because people get it confused. It's two different things. I can say that I'm a manager for a person, but I'm his business manager. I'm not the manager that handles a lot of, like, I'm not on the road. I'm not, doing that. So let's get that together first. Manager number one, manager. Business manager number two, you need a booking agent. If you are not willing to join a booking agency, then you need to have someone that can only book you, because your manager cannot be your booking agent. So the three major things you need is a manager. When you get to the point of even needing that, you would need a manager, a booking agent. And I always suggest a social media person. You always need someone to be able to go in your social media when you can't and post. You might be on stage, but this might be a great opportunity to be able to post. So I always, publicist comes a little later on. Like, when you're seeing numbers and views and all that, then you need to bring a publicist in. When people are actually calling for interviews or when you get to a point to where you're on the radio or you're getting interviews, you're getting all this, then that's when the publicist comes in. Like, that's not a first out thing. First thing is manager. You need a manager.
Thanks. We have some questions and maybe we can address, again, everyone feel free to jump in. As an independent artist, how important is knowing your budget when outsourcing? And what are some basic costs to these services? When you're moving something from something you've previously done yourself and you want to move to the next step, what are you paying your manager? What does your distribution charge? What does it cost to make sure you have access to your data? If you want to just, kind of quickly look at the importance of a budget, I would say that yes, it is important, and prioritizing within there.
Usually managers take 15%, 15 to 20. It's whatever you negotiate. A business manager usually takes 5%. But it's really whatever you negotiate with that person. But that's typical standards. You would get also a booking agent. There's percentages that come out of the final booking. DSPs, they are going to take their piece anyway. It just depends on what you want to do. If you're going for a label or are you going to be an independent artist? If you're an independent artist, you definitely need to know about your YouTube. You need to know about how you're getting your money from your Facebook and all of that. Like, right now I'm a manager, a business manager, and I'm having to backtrack because the artist just shot off with numbers. So now it's just like, oh my goodness. Okay. So now I have to backtrack and get, the YouTube claimed and all of that claimed, which there's money there, but nobody's getting the money because things weren't set in place in the beginning, So it's like, where's all the money? It's always good to make sure that you are with some sort of company that there's a bunch of companies out here that just can find your data. And I mean, and send you'll be able to go in, like you can go in your YouTube. Once you're able to join a partner program, you'd be able to see your analytics on what you're making. You'll be able to see your gross income on what you're making. When you're able to, and I'm talking further down the line because you have to have a certain amount of followers, of views, of all of the watch times and all of that to even be able to see the analytics on your money and certain things. You have to join partner programs. And all of that is important to know because that's your money. Anybody can put your video up, but who's getting paid from it? And as an independent artist, nobody's telling you that. If you're with a label, they're going to do all that for you. They're going to, they're going to put they're going to collect all of your stuff and then pay you. But being an independent artist, you have to stay on top of where your money is going. Now, as far as like a manager, yes, that's standard 15% of what you do. Business manager, standard 5% of what you do. On the physical plane. Now, on the digital plane, you need to know about like your Spotify views. You need an artist account. You need to know your analytics. You need to know, how much approximately, you can kind of range approximately what you're going to make from that. So you need to be talking to whoever, your DSP to figure out like, okay, so my views are like this. So what am I getting paid from that part of this situation? Because most of the times I think Sound Exchange and not Sound Exchange, I'm sorry. Spotify and Pandora are paid usually through your DSP and not directly to you. It's whoever you downloaded your music and put it out. That's who's going to pay you on that. It's just good for everybody to stay on top of what they're doing. Like, what your numbers are, what your everything is. It's just good to stay on top of all of your numbers at all times, whether you've got 100 views or, 10 million.
Yeah, great. Thanks. Does anyone else want to jump in on budget and costs? I think that was a really good overview of the basics too of what you may be spending. So Jesse, Andy, Britnee, Noah, if you want to kind of jump in there.
One of the things that I will add along with the publicist, like further down the line, as a good person to have on your team is a lawyer. And that is a cost that is negotiated with them. But that'll save you in the long run, especially anytime you start signing contracts, especially if you move from independent to a label. That is a cost you probably want to keep in mind. Other than that, I think Oona kind of covered a lot of ground, but I just wanted to make that very important addition there.
And that's probably, we don't have any attorneys on this panel, but that is probably a thing that comes up more than anything in the organizing your team. What you shouldn't do yourself, you should probably have an attorney or someone with a very good legal background helping you look over any contracts. There are many attorneys in our community who said they spent a lot of time and money fixing problems that could have been solved from the get-go in working with an artist who signed something they shouldn't have or that needed edits. So consider, that's a great one. Thank you, Britnee. Keep that in mind. Anyone else want to jump in on budget and costs?
Yeah, I'll just say, coming from a DIY background, if you're at the point where you're worrying about budget and cost, you're already doing something right. 80 to 90% of artists on Bandcamp don't have managers, aren't on labels, aren't working with anyone. It's themselves. It's the band. They're booking their own tours. They're doing their own social media. They're, for the most part, even recording their albums themselves. And that's asking a lot out of artists. But once you're at a point where you're comfortable and making money, then it's just finding people that you get along with, that you're comfortable with, that you trust, and then the rest will come naturally.
Great, thanks, Andy. Excellent. So if we feel complete. Oh, Noah, I saw you.
I was going to say, I talk a lot about this. It just, especially in the early phases, Oona makes great points. So, a good business manager could be a trusted friend from the past who gets to learn the ropes, reads Passman's book and Wixon's book and a few other good resource documents and get started. The music industry sounds really esoteric from the outside when we talk about rights, but we talked about this on the pre-call. I mean, there's really, there's four main rights to understand, right? It's the recording right and associated neighboring rights. And then there's performance, there's sync, and there's mechanical. So it sounds like rocket science at first, but it is something that, anybody with a, IQ above room temperature can get a grasp on it and learn it. And it really is about trust and knowing you can work with people. We hear so many stories, whether it's in mainstream media or, in the underground talk world of artists who have been taken advantage of by this, that, or the other. So really knowing your team, but in the earliest phases, just rolling your sleeves up and realizing that you are your own team. And that registering your works and tracking your copyrights and your splits and all that stuff. I always say that, the real money and the real longevity and sustainability is in all the work that's not very fun, unfortunately. It is in the registrations. It is in the collections, tracking down, finding the right partners. Making music's the easy part and, sort of extrapolating all income out of it. That's the administrative and roll your sleeves up work. So I agree with everything everybody said. I want to encourage everybody to think of themselves as, their own administrator when they're starting, and as they build and find those right pieces of the puzzle to fit into their team.
Great. Thanks, Noah. Jasen, before I move on, last chance.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to get too super salesy throughout everything, but starting out, especially as an independent artist, so before even working for DistroKid, I was using another distribution service, and my band would write a new song, and we say, all right, we want to get this out to the world, but it's going to cost us like $40, and then if we write another song, like maybe we should just wait and put out an EP, and you have to like limit your creativity because you're worried about finances. And so, just pitching again that DistroKid being able to pay $35 a year for unlimited uploads versus something like TuneCore where you're paying like $30 to $50 per release. You'll end up obviously saving a lot of money there, and then you can use the money that you're saving to be able to hire marketing or management or whatever once you get to the point that you're looking for that.
Great, thanks. So we answered a few questions we had there in this kind of larger chat. So I'm going to go to some quicker ones now. So if anyone else has a question, please ask it. You can ask in the general chat or in this little chat, ask a chat at the bottom. So let's see. Jasen, this one's for you. Does DistroKid plan to distribute to Triller?
I know there's been chatter. I don't have any specific dates or anything, but I'd say stay tuned to DistroKid on Twitter. We tend to mention all the new stores that are rolling out there.
Great, thanks. Britnee, do you want to talk about getting your house in order as it relates to your data and kind of what that means? Oh, you're muted.
I'm gonna keep doing that.
You just
used to
stay
having
on.
my dog like in the room.
We'd happily accept a dog.
So essentially that just means being organized, just like any other job where you have to keep track of things. And again, you guys are, as creators, are your own entrepreneurs. And I know that's very trite, but like when you get to fire yourself from different things and you hire a manager and you hire a business manager and give it to them, it's easy when you can hand them over. It's like, okay, well, here is a schedule of all of my songs spelled correctly and all of the people who wrote on them. That is data that is going to be super useful going forward when they're registering you with PROs, when they're registering you with CMOs, when they are doing the label copy for distribution. All of that stuff is very important. If you have all of your lyrics written or typed somewhere, that's important to have. And I know that this doesn't sound like the binary zeros and ones of data, but like all of this is information that you're going to need to have somewhere. You're going to need to have the names of all of your writers for everything that you've written, the producers, the splits, as Oona mentioned earlier. Those are really important to make sure that people get paid, and everybody wants to get paid. That's usually the thing that people tune into. If you have ISWCs, which are your composition codes, if those have been issued by CSAC, if you have ISRCs, usually you need those to be able to distribute to Spotify and Pandora, etc., because that is your recording code. And those things, you'll be able to track those throughout the system. So anytime that there's unmatched, unclaimed, which is what we colloquially call black box, when they don't know who to pay, having any of those tags will expedite being able to get the money out of this nebulous box back into your pocket, because that's your money. Otherwise, it just goes to like Drake, and that's not God's plan. So, so those are kind of the nuts and bolts, and you like even if it's in an Excel sheet that is doing leagues above anybody who's just trying to like find it like based in like different spots, just being able to keep your catalog together and be like song writers, codes that are of note, and then any other notes that you need to have on your songs. And in terms of that, if you have graphics or art, keeping that together, keep it in a little folder on your desktop so that things are readily accessible. Because I think as you get bigger and your fame and your career snowballs, people are going to need things quickly. So being able to have that organized in a very specific place. So when somebody's like, oh, I need this, send it out. I need the artwork for your new EP for this new date. We got to send it to the agent. Easy peasy. And then you can fire yourself from that job because it's all organized and you can hand it off to an assistant and they'll be able to find everything. I think the way you should do it is organize it into a way that anybody else can find it and be able to do it for you, because you want to make things easier for yourself as you go down the road. So I know that's not super specific into the data, but that is very specific into your data and things that matter for your career.
And that's important, right? Because data is bad information in, bad information out. So maybe exactly. Jasen, do you want to kind of address how important it is to have correct data and maybe the consequences of not from a distributor's standpoint?
Yeah, for sure. There are various issues, like if you're moving from one distributor to another, it's very important that you're using the same audio files, same metadata, same ISRCs. For anyone that isn't in the know, whereas like a UPC or a barcode is sort of the identification of the album as a whole, each individual track has an ISRC. And that's where something like on Spotify showing play counts, if you upload a single and then you put it out on an EP or an album, but you don't use the same ISRC, it's not going to link up the existing play count. So you're kind of starting over. Or if you're moving an album from, CD Baby to DistroKid, You could risk losing all of those previous play counts unless you're using the same ISRCs. You also run into issues where if you upload a song and you call it one thing and then you remove it and you try to upload it onto an album, but you have a typo in it or something, stores might reject that, saying, no, we already have this song with different metadata, and that conflict is no good. So super important to just keep really close track of all of that. I love having a good spreadsheet that has track titles and ISRCs, something I can just copy and paste from and not have to worry about typing something in and risking messing it up.
Great, thanks. And this is really relevant to another question we have, which is talking about the MLC and HFA. So does someone, maybe Noah, you would like to go over what is the MLC and how does it affect independent artists?
Yes, the Mechanical Licensing Collective, and I wish Day were here to address it for us because he is the dude to talk about the MLC. But it's a new collective formulated to help identify and distribute mechanical royalties. Mechanical royalty comes from back in the day when we were actually machining records and then cassette tapes and acetates and different things like this. And when the recordings on those machined products sell, it spits off a statutory royalty for the songwriters. That for physical right now is at 9.1 cents per 5-minute song. And then for every minute over that, it will get prorated an additional, what would that be, 1.75 some odd cents for additional minutes. And then the streaming mechanical royalty rate for streaming mechanicals, I think it's 3 to 4% of total platform revenue. So Spotify also has mechanical royalties out there for anybody who's even done, a couple thousand streams or 100 streams. There's going to be a couple pennies out there. And yeah, it's basically helping sort of unify how we go about collecting and making sure in this new digital era that digital distributors are properly socking away mechanicals and or rerouting the revenue appropriately to the labels so that they can sock it away and get it to the songwriters whose songs are contained in the recordings. That's my general overview of it. But again, Dave Bogan is wonderful and he's out there educating everybody on this right now. So you could just Google search Day and hopefully he won't mind that I blasted him on this panel, but he's exceptionally knowledgeable and he can speak to greater granularity on the issue than I can.
Yeah, you can find, and maybe someone from our team can put it in the chat. He spoke at Indie Week this year to talk about the MLC, as did some other folks. So it's a relatively new venture in the world, but we're hoping that it's going to be a really positive thing for the music industry. Great. So I'm going to move on to some more questions. We have quite a few to go through, but like I said, if there's any more you want to ask, you could add them for the lightning round in the chat. So Andy, for Bandcamp, do you want to talk about the importance or how relevant it is to have physical products for sale, or if digital alone is enough?
For sure. So it's pretty exciting because I think everyone thought the vinyl bubble was going to burst, and it hasn't. And it keeps growing every single year. The industry is seeing 10, 20+% growth in vinyl. And that rings true to Bandcamp as well. We introduced merch selling back in, I think, 2012. And ever since then, it's gone up and up and up. As of this year, it's about 50-50 on Bandcamp now. We do about half our sales are digital and the other half are physical. And vinyl is the biggest part of that by far. CDs are still chugging along. Cassettes are actually exploding too, which is kind of cool. It's definitely a good route to go for artists who want a cheap, maybe quicker turnaround time than vinyl. Cassettes are pretty cool. I actually just reinvested in a cassette player again myself, and try to buy from artists when I don't feel like spending $30 on a vinyl. But physical is the way to go. And even if you don't have access to getting vinyl made, getting cassettes made, fans really want anything with your band on it, your brand on it. T-shirts sell well, tote bags sell well. Say you don't have a new album coming out this year, just make a new T-shirt design, make any sort of exclusive, fun, funky thing you can think of, and fans will respond to it. And yeah, it's crazy to think that, Bandcamp started as a digital only platform, and probably in the next year or two, the majority of our sales are going to be physical.
Great, thanks. And Britnee, and any data on selling physical product?
It's been a while, but this is in my brain somewhere. So data on selling physical product. So it goes to sales so that you'll be able to see if you move towards gold, platinum, etc. But also it lets you know where you're shipping out to. So the data of because I imagine you can be able to see all of this information in the back end of any merch platform you're using, being able to see where you're shipping to tells you where your fans are. That is super useful. The data of what is selling best, your vinyls are better. If you make music that has warmer tones, that generally plays better to vinyl. Cassettes, that's a new one. I didn't know that cassettes were coming back. I'm super excited about that because that is peak years for me. Anything like CDs, all of these things are signals. I think as a data person, that's kind of how I work, and it's kind of like being able to untangle what it's telling you, where your strongest signals are. Essentially, if people are buying single downloads instead of whole albums, maybe you have a song on your hands that you probably didn't release as your single. That you might want to. That's giving you good information that people, if you release all your songs at the same time, and you can see some songs are getting a little bit more traction, then you'll know what your next single to release is, and that you'll know which songs to put the money behind instead of what you feel like, this is my baby, I want to release this one next. Instead, you see what the audience is interacting with, and they really love this other song that you probably didn't think about. But that's a way that it's more efficient to use money to promote this song because people are already connecting with it. Again, you want that authentic connection. And if people are already seeing the song and they're just like, I love this speaks to me, that's the one you're going to want to promote. Not instead of like, I really like this one, I put a lot of work into it. Hopefully you put a lot of work into all of the songs on your album. So I think using the data of like the merch or like the downloads or what people are interacting with speaks volumes and can help you make better business decisions.
Great, thanks. We have another question, a little moving on to kind of a different topic here. How much does video production matter? So if anyone here wants to jump in, maybe Oona, this might be best for you. How much does video production matter? And are there any trends in content today that are having really positive results?
Video content in the hip hop world matters a lot because it's such a fast-paced industry that like every time you put a song up, you got to have video to follow that song, to get the views, because unlike other genres, they're not going out. Now the DJs may go buy records. There's usually no physical, there's got to be less physical sales. I don't know for sure, but it's got to be less physical sales in hip hop than it is in any other genre because it's such a digital based genre and everything moves fast. So videos are super important and they keep you engaged with your audience. So the more that you engage with your fan base is super important because, back in the day they had I'm not going to tell my age, but back in the day.
Oh, we have a question about that next. Don't worry.
Back in the day, we had like a few artists and we were all excited to go to concerts and we were all excited to see them in person and all of that. And nowadays it's just like, let's get on my phone. I can see him right here. What is he doing now? But that content that they're putting out is keeping their fan base engaged. If there's an artist that just stopped, their fan base is going to go down. Does that make sense? So anything visual, whether it's a video or anything visual is always good because it's just going to up your fan base, period.
I was just going to add to that. Somebody just posited a question in the chat. Liz, Oona, do you think videos can help a rapper expand his audience, or is it more for your current fan base? I think the answer is absolutely. My fiance Katie's a release strategist and music publicist and comm specialist for the music industry. And, when she has a video to work with, that gives her the opportunity to get a premiere. She recently got a premiere for one of her artists on Rolling Stone online. Happen because of the existence of a music video. It's a little bit harder to sort of grab some press with just another single being out there. And certainly video is super engaging, and I think we see that every day with TikTok, spinning off millions of streams on classic hits that maybe this generation hasn't heard of. So I would not dispel at all the possibility for video of any size, type, or shape to help grow your audience, whether it's an official music video or just an engaging post from the studio or creative process,
And video is a large form of discovery as well on many different platforms.
It drives a ton of SEO across the entire scope of the internet, for sure.
Yeah. Our next question kind of goes towards one of our earlier questions, but it's a little more specific. Any advice for a parent manager of a teen artist? Is there such thing as a manager's manager? And I think this question is relevant because early on we were saying people do start out with friends and family members as managers or part of their team. But maybe if anyone wants to kind of jump in, some of our musicians want to jump in on this one. Yeah.
I've dealt with a lot of younger artists, so a lot of their parents are their managers, or it's a hard thing because you have to be able to differentiate between home life and manager life. Like, you have to be able to understand that, okay, don't take it personal. We're in business form right now. You may be mad at me, but we're not holding this grudge when we get home. It's a little different, and it's hard when artists, because I've dealt with artists that were my relatives. So it's hard because it's like you don't want to hurt anybody's feelings and you don't want to overstep boundaries. But then it's like when you do something, you're like, oh my God, did I make them feel bad? I completely understand. So my suggestion is always start out, just make sure you keep that on a business level and then still be home with your child at night. As a family, you can't bring that into it's just like if you're in any relationship and you come home, you don't want to bring your business relationship into your household. That's like, I might as well still be at work. So, it's hard out here to be a parent manager simply because you have a child that you know very well, so I've dealt with a lot, and a lot of people have actually, succeeded at this. NLE Choppa's mom is his manager. And they're doing great. I mean, so yeah, it can be great and then it can be bad. It's just you guys just got to come to a common agreement on what is it going to be. Like, this is business, this is personal. That's the only thing that I've had issues with dealing with parent managers, is keeping it straight, between home life and, business life. And then when you get I wouldn't want to be my child's manager for too long. I want to get him up there and get him out and get him doing it. But then I kind of would want to probably, if that's what you want to do in the future, then do it. But if it's not, find another person that can handle this. Because a child, when they get a certain age, they don't want to go on tour with their daddy, their mama, their auntie, they nobody. They don't want to do that. you know, they're like 20 years old. No, I need to go by myself. They don't want to do all the, you know, other stuff. So that's just a part you have to kind of think about.
Yeah, I would also comment too that don't take it personally if someone turns down working with your artist who is a family member, because it's not personal. I found in my previous work that it was always difficult to tell an artist or an artist family member directly the reason why you know, they weren't accepted into whatever thing or made some kind of offer. So I would just advise in taking the personal aspect out of that, which I don't think is necessarily easy, but to be aware of it. Great. So we're coming up on time. So let's wrap this up with, does anyone, I'll go around in alphabetical order by first name. If anyone wants to make a comment, either based on something we talked about today or that we didn't get to mention, that's important for independent artists to know. And Andy with an A, you're up first.
Yeah, I'll just say the pandemic has kind of shown that, you know, no matter what the capacity, fans want to interact with their artists. They want to give back. They want to communicate or do something with their artists. Live shows aren't a possibility right now, and that sucks. But there's still ways that artists can, you know, build relationships with their fans, reach out to them. And, you know, fans do want to support artists, whether it's financially or just through watching a live stream. And that's really cool to see. And I think what artists need to focus on right now is just making those connections with their fans and finding new ways of connecting with them in these weird times.
Great. Thanks, Andy. Britnee, words of wisdom.
So first, more than anything, keep your information organized. If there's nothing else that I can drill into, be authentic, make art that connects with people. That'll get you a lot further than trying to hop on whatever the trend is, especially if it's not something that feels very native to you. And know when to fire yourself as your independence and wearing all the hats. It gets exhausting and that can be very taxing. But if there is a person who, like we talked about before, who's really good at the very specific thing, and they're willing to help you, know when to fire yourself and be like, this is yours now, and help. As long as they can move the ball forward, I think it's really good for your mental health if you know, especially when you need to like raise a hand and get somebody else to help out. So those are probably the best bits of wisdom I can give independent artists.
Oh, we didn't bring that up, but thank you for bringing up taking care of yourself and your health. Jasen.
Again, getting kind of salesy here, but yeah, following up on that, what Britnee said about wearing so many different hats. I generally talk about DistroKid about being a digital distributor, but really it's a service platform for lots of various tools that are helpful for artists. Something that came up in the first part of the panel was talking about like email collection. And DistroKid has a feature that I really love. It's called our hyper follow. Every time you upload, you automatically get a link that starts out as a Spotify pre-save. You can share that. And then whoever wants to save your release has the option of giving you their email address. Then they get notified once the release goes live. And then it's sort of like a link tree where it'll have all the various stores once it goes live. So you just have one link to more easily be able to share to everyone, regardless of whether or not you use Spotify or Tidal or Deezer. Here's where you can find my new release. And then a lot of other tools like being able to update your artist profile or getting into Spotify for artists or Apple Music for artists to kind of dress up your page and make it look a bit more professional. Just all these tools that we have to help you get started doing that before you can get to that point of handing that off to somebody else to manage your socials or whatever the case may be.
Awesome. Thanks, Jasen. Noah, you're up.
I mean, I think everybody's touched really well on sort of the administrative side and what you need to do when the stuff is ready. So one thing I always like as a producer myself, this will be more on the creative tip, is if you want really honest feedback on one of your songs or tracks, Play it for friends or family members that you know like that genre, and don't tell them it's your music. And that's how you'll get actual honest reactions to your creations. It's really difficult to get, fed truth and honesty when you tell people how much you love your song and that you really hope they like it and things like this. So, being able to self A&R and being realistic about, the quality of your work, I think is an important thing, and knowing where that quality of work sits best in the marketplace. You could have a goofy, low production quality song that might just be absolutely perfect for TikTok, and that's how you push it. And things like that. So I think just being really, getting good feedback and knowing what and when to do in the marketplace, but also, in contrast to a lot of thinking, I really do encourage sort of participating in as many different revenue streams as possible. I'm doing a lot of work in DC right now, or attempting to, virtually in DC. And, we are up against some really, really nasty legislation against creatives in the DMCA and 512, which for the time being, as far as it sits, I think the more participation that you involve yourself in different revenue streams or offerings, as long as they're paying and they have some marginal value for you, you should probably participate. But knowing what that value is and making those decisions, most of those decisions will get made for you by the Jasens and the DistroKids as they opt in to different rights agreements with different platforms. But I've stood on ceremony on some of these platforms for a few years and ended up regretting it myself as an artist, to be quite frank, and not participated. So I'm sort of flipping my script a little bit these days and encouraging more participation and really just trying to leverage all the different platforms that you can. And if you don't want to play in the social media game, then you better get involved in the sync space and try and work the TV and film sync space, because if you can't do social, it's going to be really difficult at retail.
Thanks, Noah. And Oona, any final thoughts or help for artists?
Just, research what you need to put a song out, so you don't have to go through the issues of having to take down anything or claim anything or any of that. Know that you need a split sheet so you know where your percentages are going. Know that you need a pro to collect your publishing. Know that you need to copyright your music before, so you are the rights owner. It's very important to own the rights to your things. They'll stop you before, pay that $55 for that one song to get it copywritten. Go to copyright.gov. There's so many tutorials on YouTube that tell you how to do it. Focus, like you have a PA or SR copyright. That's really the main things that a musician needs to know, PA or SR. And each form is different. One is for your sound recording and one is performance performance rights. So just study that a little bit, and before you put a song out, at least have it engaged in some kind of rights thing, BMI, all of that. And then after your stuff gets popular, make sure you keep up with your Sound Exchange. There's Sound Exchange that does all of your digital streaming. All of your digital radio play, all of that, your podcast, all of that is controlled by Sound Exchange. So you get royalties for that. So, go on there ever so often, sign up for an account and just put your name and search and claim. And see, do you have something out there, and claim it. If you're the rights owner, claim it, So there's a lot of things like that I hope that, artists can take away before you actually get a song out to the world. Let's do these things first and protect yourself so you don't have any issues.
Yeah, that's great advice. Before you can follow Britnee's dream of firing yourself, to audit your revenue streams and ensure that you are getting the money that is owed to you from your creative work. And thank you so much, everybody. Thanks, Noah, Jasen, Andy, Britnee, Oona. This was a really excellent chat. We have some people asking how to get in touch with you, so I'll leave that up to you if you want to reach out in the chat to anyone individually or as a group. And welcome Cheryl back to close up the program. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, panelists, so much. What a great chat. Wonderful conversation. Thanks to all of you for joining us tonight. This is A2IM Artist. It is a free program. We encourage you to join. It's events and it's our online resource guide. You can get in touch. I've put the link in the chat multiple times, but if you want to get in touch with me, if you missed it, I'm Cheryl with an S, Cheryl@a2im.org. And thanks again tonight. Have a wonderful evening. Ciao.